Well, CFL free agency is a couple months away. We're going to look back on the 2019 season with our next guest. John Ryan joins us from sunny Los Angeles this morning. Good morning, JR. How are you, my friend?
Good morning. I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
How are things in the world of John Ryan in LA these days? What's keeping you busy?
A little bit of everything. A lot of working out, as always, and we're just back in Portland, working with the Portland Pickles, and we just introduced that we have a new team in Portland named the Gherkins, so busy with the baseball thing too.
I was going to say, it's like you're speaking another language to me. What? I missed that part of your life, John. What's going on? You're into minor league baseball now, or what's the deal there?
I bought a team about 3 years ago in Portland, Oregon, collegiate wood bat summer league team. It's been going really well for us. It's going to be a good little hobby when I do retire, and we just added a second team now, so it's definitely keeping us busy.
John, hey, John, you're a mogul. You're blowing my mind here, John. I didn't know this. What's it like to be an owner? I got to be honest, that's my dream. You're living the dream. I've long thought you were living the dream, but what's it like to be an owner of a pro sports team?
It's been great. It's been a lot more stressful and a lot more work than I ever thought it would be. I went into it a little bit naive, and I'm kind of glad I did. But I'm just kind of been a sponge for the last 3 years, learning about all the things there is to learn about. And, it's one of those things we kind of got in as a hobby, and it's kind of worked out to be a little bit more time consuming than that, but also able to make a few bucks off it too.
Well, that's the thing is, if you want to do it right, it's going to consume your life, obviously. What's the one thing that you didn't expect about this job that you didn't see coming when you got into it?
I don't know if there's one thing you can put your finger on. It's hundreds of little things that you just never thought about, from sponsors to concessions to host families for players to recruiting players to, staff payroll. It goes on and on and on. I just wasn't quite fully prepared for that. But at the same time, I've learned a ton doing this, and it's been a lot of fun.
All right. Well, that's another interesting thing to follow. Looking back, John, on the 2019 season with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, I can't think it could have gone better, save for a Grey Cup, but an all-star nod, leading the league in punting average, playing at home. Your family was so excited to have. What I noticed at your golf tournament with all your nieces and nephews running around, it's like they can go down the street to watch Uncle John play rather than get on a plane to go watch Uncle John play. That must have been the best feeling out of everything.
It was phenomenal, and not only did they get to see me play, I got to go to watch their basketball games and their soccer games and things like that. They never get a chance to do being home, 1 or 2 weeks a year. So that was cool. But for them to come almost every game, be able to watch me play, that meant a ton to me. Usually they kind of get out to one game a year if they're lucky, playing in Seattle or Green Bay. So. That was pretty special for me, as well as now they're kind of coming into that age where they understand what Uncle John is doing, and it's a lot of fun for them to kind of be a little bit more mixed up in it.
So playing at home, I mean, another thing, I never knew or thought that it would work out, because pro sports are tough, and it did work out. What was that season like for you? Was it everything that you'd imagined?
Yeah, and then some, really. Coming into it. I heard people say, you should probably go play for a contender. If you're only going to play for a year or however many years you're going to play, you should play for a team that has a chance to win. And I think that everyone thought that, people had us picked last place. And I wanted to be a part of the Roughriders. And, I think we played a lot better than a lot of people thought we would. And, in my opinion, coming down the stretch, we were the best team in the league and just came up a little bit short on that Sunday afternoon.
What was special about that group? I had the team picked for fourth, and then come Labor Day, I amended it to second, and then it just kept going and going and going. What was special about this team?
It reminded me a little bit of those years back in 2012, 13, 14, 15 when I was with the Seahawks, and it was just a bunch of guys with chips on their shoulders, and with that, you kind of have a us versus the world mentality, and that's kind of what we had in that locker room a little bit, and that caused the guys to bond and come closer together, and guys just playing for each other, and playing to kind of say screw you to the rest of the country, and I think that's what kind of brought those guys together, and you kind of saw how that worked out on the field.
Can you talk about your relationship with the specialists too? By the way, Jorgen Hughes, Brett Lowther, and then you were holding on field goals, which you're used to. I don't think it matters the league, CFL or NFL. That is a very special relationship. What was it like in 2019 for you and those guys?
Yeah, it really is a special thing. You spend a lot of time with those guys, and I've known Jorgen for over 10 years now, and I think we've kind of talked for years about potentially playing for each other, and I kind of worked my butt off in Seattle to get him a tryout there, and he was there for a couple months in Seattle with me, and just to be able to play with him this year, meant a lot to me as him and I being friends. And then I just met Brett for the first time coming to training camp, and him and I just kind of hit it off right away and became fast friends. And the three of us just have a pretty special bond, even though only working together for one season.
All very, very good people too. So I can just imagine what your times are like. Now, for those that are peering in from across the continent that don't know what Regina's like, I saw your mom in Starbucks a couple weeks ago, and I asked her the $64,000 question. I said, for the 100th time today, Barb, I'm going to be the 100th guy to ask, what's John doing? And what she said, I'll keep between us. But I got to ask you, you talk about this special rider team. You're not going to take anybody by surprise next year in 2020, I don't think, especially as Grey Cup hosts. Do you plan to be part of it? What do we know as we sit here today?
I know that I'm working out every day. I took my normal 2 days off after the season, got right back in the weight room. We'll start kicking again next week. Stay ready, and I'm going to see what happens here. Jo and Dickie have made it clear they want me back next year. I'm going to take a couple months here and just think about it. Obviously, talk about it with Sarah. It's one of those things that money isn't really a contributing factor to this decision. It's more with my wife's work. She has to be in LA for the better part of the year, and so we living apart for half a year isn't always easy or ideal. So there's a lot of factors and just things that her and I will have to talk about, and I'll just kind of see in a month or two here if the fire and the passion still burns for football. And I always say that never ask a guy, especially a guy who's played 16 years, whether or not he wants to retire the week after a long season, because they're always going to say yes. And that's what I used to always tell Brett Favre. I said, I think he retired 4 years in a row, and he made the mistake of retiring right after the season, where I said everyone wants to retire after the season. Wait for 3 or 4 months when you're itching to get back in the field and in the locker room with the guys. So I'm going to take a little bit of time here and just make sure I make the right decision.
Well, the one thing your mom said was that this last time that you left, it seemed the hardest for you to leave that it ever has. That's the one thing she said, that, and I would assume it was the family thing and so forth. But I think it was your agent who told me that you fly Sarah in for every home game. How important is it to have your wife there? Clearly it helps you out on the field. Statistically, you showed that you still got it. We all knew that you still had it. But how does it feel? And then she was going on the road too. How important is it to have Sarah in the crowd for you?
Yeah, she's just, super supportive. I'm supportive of what she does. We have a little bit of a unique relationship and a unique life, and that we're both traveling all over and, living in different spots. But that's kind of how it's always been. And, she, I think she flew into, 8 of the 9 home games and 3 or 4 of the road games. So, she's my biggest fan, and, she's there whenever she can. And with that being said, it's not easy flying from LA to Regina. It's not an easy 2 or 3 flights to get there. So big commitment for her, but she loves watching me play, and I love her having the stands there in the front row right behind the kicking net every game.
I love the photos of you up in the crowd with her. It's a really special thing. And by the way, Sarah was here in the bunker. I'm sure you watched that interview when she was here. And I said about you sitting in the back of the clubs when she's doing her stand-up. And she said, John, you don't have to come to every show. But, of course, knowing you're going to be there, right? That's the support that you guys have for each other. It's pretty cool, actually, and somewhat inspirational.
Yeah, I love it. She, when we go on the road here, it's not always beautiful theaters in New York. Some week it's 5 shows in Omaha or cities like that. A little bit different than what some people might think. So, but I love going along with her. I love being in the back of the club, and I think we're both very supportive of each other. And obviously, we love each other, but what you can't always say about some couples, we really like each other too, and we're best friends, so we're just always there for each other.
Good stuff. We got one question for you from our director of scouting, Craig Smith. Go ahead, Smitty.
Hey, John, it's not a question. There's 2 comments. You still should be kicking in the NFL. You still got the leg to do that down there. Obviously, there's things that aren't happening because of that, but thank God that you're here, playing for your hometown team. The other thing is every Wednesday I meet with McChrystal and Bernie Schmidt and Eddie Bankowski, and they've never said a bad word about you.
Oh, thank you. Well, those are 3 absolute beauties in the Regina community. Obviously, love all 3 of those guys, and I think that those 3 guys are, one of the biggest reasons why I was able to play in the NFL, why I was ever able to play a single game of professional football. I don't think I'd be here without Frank McChrystal. So, love Frank, Bernie, and Ed, and forever indebted to those guys for sure.
And they love you.
Well, I appreciate that.
All right, John. Listen, we'll let you get back to your workouts and so forth. I appreciate the time. Merry Christmas to you and the Ryans and the Kalanas, and hope for good news in the new year, but you'll be a success no matter what you do. Thanks for the time today.
All right. Thanks a lot, Rod.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.